Let's return to that now. Senior analyst at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, Malcolm Davis, joins us. So we've got 3 warships, Malcolm, off the coast of New South Wales, I think about 250k. Yes, they're outside our economic zone, but we now learn, and the Prime Minister seems to say, oh, well, there's not much to see here, that the Chinese have let the Australian, I guess, Defence Minister or the Australian military know that they're going to use live ammunition in an exercise off Australia. And so we've got to divert commercial airliners. Have you ever heard of anything like this before?
Well, certainly I think the key message that what we should be taking from this is not that the Chinese are operating within the bounds of international law. Yes, they are. That's accurate. The key message is that the Chinese are sending us a strategic signal that they can project power against Australia whenever they want and deploy their most powerful warships off our coast, relatively close by, and essentially demonstrate their military prowess. Now, this is an important strategic signal that which we should not be ignoring. We should be recognising that the Chinese are serious about projecting their maritime and naval capabilities much further out, and they'll probably be doing this again in the future. So I do think that this does send a message that we need to start thinking seriously about how we defend our air and maritime approaches more effectively.
I mean, is it sending a message also to the Americans that, look, if we want to go down through that part of the Pacific, we'll do it, and there's nothing you can do to stop us?
Well, part of the flotilla of these ships is a Type 55 Renhai class cruiser, which is the most powerful warship that the Chinese operate. It has 112 vertical launch system missile cells that can carry large numbers of missiles. They sent another one of these Renhai class cruisers out to Vanuatu. So that in itself suggests that they're determined to project power into the South Pacific. So I think that it does send a message to Indo-PACOM, to the Americans and to us that China is about becoming a blue water naval power, projecting power out when it wants, against whom it wants.
Let's go to the Middle East. Israel now has labelled Hamas monsters over that horrific way. We've all seen the pictures. They were just horrendous when we brought them last night on Credlin. The way they staged that handover of the bodies of the 4 dead hostages was horrific. A handover was meant to include the bodies of Shiri Bibas and her 2 young sons, but the IDF have now released a statement saying, look, Shiri's body was not among the 4 that were released. Israel's now accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire. Do you think this is a deliberate move by Hamas to agitate Israel again, to perhaps provoke them again?
Look, Hamas does not want peace. They may have signed a document that would lead to a ceasefire, but that ceasefire will give them time to regroup and reconstitute their forces so that they can begin the war again. Let's not forget, it was Hamas, backed by Iran, that started this war on October 7th, 2023. And Hamas is dedicated to the destruction of Israel. They're dedicated to the eradication of the Jewish people. So when you see what's happening with the return of hostages, and particularly what happened today with the return of those dead hostages, it sends a signal about what Hamas is really about. They are monsters. They do seek the destruction of Israel, and they're basically biding their time and waiting until such time as they can begin the war again.
Well, you had that West Bank, the buses that came out of the West Bank, and they were found to be carrying explosives. They exploded in central Israel. Thank God there was no great loss of life. I don't know how that happened. Police have described it as a terror attack. I mean, it's coming from all sides again on Israel. I mean, and it looks like Palestine and their cohorts are just poking the bear again.
As I said, the Hamas group, Hezbollah, the Houthis, all backed by Iran, they're not interested in peace. What they want to do is exploit the current ceasefire agreement that Israel's come under a lot of pressure to sign so that they can regroup their forces, rebuild their forces and launch the war again. Hamas have actually been quite open about it. They've said that they're going to launch more October 7 style attacks. So I do think the Israelis do have a great deal to be concerned about here. They're surrounded by adversaries that want the destruction of Israel. When people sing about from the river to the sea, What they don't seem to be understanding is that, in actual fact, Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran don't just want Palestine to be free. They want the destruction of Israel and the destruction of the Jewish people. So I do think that, we are facing a long-term threat here in the Middle East in terms of radical Islamist groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, as well as Iran, launching attacks on an ongoing basis against Israel.
Malcolm, just before you go, what do you make of the tension between the US and Ukraine with the comments from Donald Trump, of course, about Vladimir Zelensky?
Look, it's really worrying because Donald Trump seems to be throwing aside everything that we have struggled to achieve, not just in regards to Ukraine, but everything since 1945 in terms of transatlantic security, relations between the United States and Europe, the NATO alliance, everything. And he seems to be aligning with the adversaries of the West, Putin. And I think that this is very worrying indeed, because it doesn't just create the potential situation whereby Putin will feel emboldened to launch not only further wars against Ukraine, but also attack NATO directly. But it also resonates in Zhongnanhai in Beijing. And Xi Jinping and his people will be looking at how Trump is capitulating to Putin and thinking, well, if Trump is prepared to do a deal with Putin over Ukraine, he'll be prepared to do a deal with us over Taiwan. And so it will just embolden China to actually be more aggressive and perhaps move against Taiwan sooner than it had planned to do so.
Malcolm, thanks a lot. We'll catch up with you soon.